guys, it's Nick. As you can tell, I'm still on vacation. But there has been news. Red smoke atop of the United Center by Tommy Hawk indicating the Blackhawks have chosen a new head coach. And that is going to be the 42nd head coach of your Chicago Blackhawks, Jeff Blashill. The Hawks make this official after basically a week of us basically seeing their smoke to the fire that the Blackhawks are basically favorite to land Jeff Blashill as head coach for your Chicago Blackhawks. Where this report came from on Daily Faceoff, Frank Silverelli basically reported that he is the favorite to land the job in Chicago, and then the next day, John Buccigross tweeted out that a GIF of Chicago saying Blashill next to go, basically, and he will land in Chicago. So it was all indicating that Blashill was going to get the job. Then 32 Thoughts with Elliot Friedman, he basically said that there was he canceled a interview, and then basically indicating the Hawks were going to hire him. But he also mentioned he wasn't 100% sure, as the Hawks needed one more person for the interview process to finish it all off to get Blash to come to Chicago. Well, the Blackhawks end up announcing it today that Jeff Blashill is the next head coach of your Chicago Blackhawks. Here's my thoughts. I did some research into Blashill over the last week since I basically figured he's going to be our next coach. And well, what I saw from it, yes, he failed as head coach in Detroit. However, he did get 1 year of playoff experience as head coach for that team, but that team was ready to tear it down to the studs. And, well, Detroit hasn't made it to the playoffs since Blashill's first year as head coach with the Wings. And the Red Wings still have been kind of a dumpster fire. So what it was, Blashill gets the job over in Detroit. He's there for 7 years. So first year he makes the playoffs, and the next 6 years, no playoff success for the Red Wings as they tore it down to the studs to start a full-blown rebuild. Did it fully succeed with him? No. Detroit still is in a rebuild. They still haven't figured it all out. The Red Wings did suck under Blashill, but I feel like it's more so roster construction by the GMs they had in place by Ken Holland, then transitioning to Steve Yzerman. Steve Yzerman, in my opinion, hasn't done much to get that team into the playoffs. So after his contract was up with the Red Wings, he ended up going to Tampa Bay to be an assistant coach to John Cooper in Tampa Bay. With Cooper, Blashill was the assistant coach primarily for defense. He's more of a defensive-minded coach. Tampa Bay was basically middle of the pack for the past 3 years with Blashill as assistant coach for defense, and they improved each season. However, when it came to the playoffs, Tampa Bay really did not fully succeed at playoff hockey. I think what's going on here, this is more a stopgap coach. Right now, NHL head coaches have not been lasting long in their position. It's below 2 years as head coach in the NHL on average. What I'm thinking, with the fact that where the Hawks are in the stage of their rebuild, it's a point where they're going to start improving. Blashill, I think, is going to be here for developing these young, talented players coming up. And maybe, if he's successful, he's here for this team to compete. However, I don't know if that's the case. I think maybe if they see a big name coach by the time they're ready to compete, they could change. But this is where I'm at. I think this is more so a stopgap coach because they were not able to hire the two big names that were head coaching candidates this offseason. David Carl from University of Denver and Mike Sullivan from the Pittsburgh Penguins. Once the Penguins fired Sullivan, he went to the New York Rangers. The Hawks were heavily pursuing David Carl, but Carl decided to go back to the University of Denver to remain head coach there. So they had to find a way and pivot to find their next head coach. This year, the coaching search was more difficult, in my opinion. This is a crucial hire, in my opinion, for Kyle Davidson because I don't know how this could work for Davidson because his last hire and Luke Richardson didn't do so well. He also brought in the two past interim coaches, Derek King from Jeremy Colleton to Luke Richardson to Anders Sorensen as interim, and now it's Jeff Blashill as head coach with Anders Sorensen remaining on board. Davidson has done this twice now. He has a interim head coach and Derek King. He gets the Hawks end up hiring Luke Richardson. King remains as assistant coach to Luke Richardson. Richardson gets fired. They call up Anders Sorensen to be interim coach and end up hiring Jeff Blashill. And now Sorensen remains on with the Blackhawks as an assistant coach. It's interesting to see what's happening here. But I did go on to Twitter last night asking what your guys' thoughts are on the potential hiring of Jeff Blashill because there was already smoke to the fire that he was going to be the head coach. I just wanted to be out there asking you guys what your guys' thoughts are. So I went ahead and grabbed a couple comments for this video. So right here with what Nicholas said and my as a reply, he basically is saying what I'm saying. This is a good hiring, not a great hiring, and out of the current pool, it's okay for what comes from this current head coaching available pool. And I kind of agree here where he says maybe in a few years they can pull what St. Louis did by hiring Montgomery from when Boston immediately fired him and hire a good head coach when one comes available in a couple of years. That's where I think this could lead to when it comes to the next head coach for the Blackhawks if Blashill doesn't pan out. And then Michael Evans also kind of had a similar feeling. It's not the big name head coach hire with that ooh and ah. Uh, but in Kyle, he trusts learning under Cooper should help from his 3 years there. I think that's where it should be. The Hawks had to hire someone, find a head coach who can be able to be held accountable when needed. The Blackhawks had that issue where they didn't have a head coach with Anders Sorensen who was able to chew out a ref when needed, in my opinion. So they found one in Jeff Blashill who has history of chewing out a ref when needed. So there's a couple thoughts I saw from Twitter that after posting what I did, and I kind of have to agree. It's a coach that isn't that big of a name for what fans were hoping for, but it's a coach. We needed one. And this guy does have history of chewing out a ref when needed because last year we had a problem where the refs basically were calling penalties left and right on the Blackhawks and not calling anything on any opponent or even backing your player, such as when Connor Bedard got tossed from 2 games in a row and under sorts and didn't even go ahead and chew out a ref. He did not do that at all his time as interim coach for the Blackhawks. I think this is a good hiring by the Blackhawks. Is it that big name that we're looking for? No. But it's a head coach who has history as being a head coach in the NHL. I think this is where we are at. So down in the comments down below, I want to hear what your thoughts are. And thank you for watching the broadcast. Please leave a like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And most of all, let's go Hawks.